on Wednesday, according to data that's been recovered from the probe's descent.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM, good morning to you. It's Thursday, October 20th, 2016. This is Community Conversations. Kato Wonder is in the studio with you, along with my co-host, Mrs. Kubila Harden, and our Mayor's Week continues on Community Conversations, and we have in the studio today the current incumbent mayor, Mr. Harold Perrin, and we're going to talk to him the entire hour. So how you doing today, Mr. Perrin?
I'm doing great.
All right, well, Mayor Perrin, for the maybe one or two people out there who may not know who you are, go ahead and just tell the listeners about yourself and your background.
All right, I'd be glad to. I was very blessed and humble in 2008 to be elected by the people of Jonesboro to serve as mayor, and I have been doing that through this December for 8 years. Prior to that, I was in banking and finance and had my own company, consulting company, and also I'm a graduate of Arkansas State University, served on the Board of Trustees for Arkansas State. Also, I was on and president of the Alumni Association for 2 terms and was the Distinguished Alumnus Award winner for the College of Business. And we've been here in Jonesboro for a number of years, and I'm married, 2 children, and 5 lovely grandchildren.
All right. Well, that's good. So, Mayor Perrin, what would you say have been your greatest accomplishments as mayor so far during the 2 terms that you've currently served?
I think the greatest thing that's occurred in my administration is the ability for my office and my people. In fact, I wrote it on the wall after being in the mayor about 4 weeks, and I put up customer relations. That's our only business. Okay. And what that means by that is that our doors are open. We always want to make sure that we listen to the citizens of Jonesboro and that we work for them. And I told my people is that everybody that you touch and see pays your salary. And the only thing that we provide to the citizens of Jonesboro is service. We don't manufacture a product. What we do is we do fire, police, sanitation. All the services we provide is strictly for you, the citizen of Jonesboro.
All right, and Mayor Perrin, along those lines, why do you feel that the citizens of Jonesboro should give you another term?
Well, I think 2 or 3 things. One is that I think during my administration that I have shown that one of the things that I do, and that is the financial stability of the city of Jonesboro. And anytime, the city is a big business, just like any other business. And you have to make sure that you have a balanced budget and you have funds in order to operate. If you don't, you can't provide those services to the people. Following that would be, in the last 8 years, I've been very blessed to build a tremendous relationship with people on the state level, as well as those in Washington, D.C., where we can receive funds to do things for our people that we don't have to pull out of the general fund. I'll give you an example of that very quickly. The beautiful 3.2-mile walking trail that's being put in at Craighead Forest now. Not one dime of that has come out of the general fund. That's been paid for over the last 2 or 3 years by the Arkansas Highway Department.
All right, Will, that you have a question for Mayor Perrin? Didn't want to just
No.
You know how I get on these interviews.
Yes, well, I want to jump in. I don't know if Miss Farrell is going to have...
Oh, you know Miss Farrell. She told me she's been listening to all these interviews. So
Well, she's going to have time to call, so I wanted to make sure to get her questions in. And this is kind of a 2 or 3-fold question.
Okay.
One, it has to do with revitalizing the north side of Jonesboro. 2, along with that, what is it?
The Jets.
The Jets, and also along with the revitalization, of course, the property maintenance code. And Lagenzi may get into that a little later, but I understand right now we don't have quote unquote a code enforcement in place. And we know that the north side of Jonesboro is one of those places that seems to get overlooked with some revitalization and then some businesses being drawn to that side. if you are elected for another term, what are some things that you could propose to do to help revitalize, clean up, and possibly, entice businesses to come to the north side?
And let me interject into that, and also involve the North Jonesboro Neighborhood Initiative. I know the NJNI, which I'm a member of, was formed to help with things like that, and it was strong, and then it kind of declined, and now hopefully it'll come back up. So how can the city as well as the NJNI help to revitalize the north side of Jonesboro?
Well, that's a real good question, and actually what you started with is how I was going to start this program.
Okay.
The very first time that I ran, I told them that in North Jonesboro that this is not my first trip. It will not be my last trip over that bridge.
Okay.
And so 2 or 3 things that you've got to look at. One, you just mentioned, and that is the North Jonesboro Initiative. And I was right in the middle of that and went down and visited with the Rockefeller Foundation and got the first financing on that they put in there. And it appears that in the last year or so, it seems like that it was taken away from the city back over to a private deal. And I think you being on the board or being involved in it.
I wasn't on the board, I was just a member.
Okay, but you know what I'm talking about when we're talking about that. And I think that needs to be pulled back in so that we can get very involved in that North Jonesboro Initiative. That's number one. The second thing is that we're doing a study now for flood control, and what that means is a lot of the areas over there on drainage, and we're going to work on that with the Corps of Engineers and get that done. But also, I was very successful in getting some people on Johnson Avenue to come in and put in the Bill's Fresh Market, put in the school there, and etc. And also, we've spent no telling how much money in sidewalks and stuff. But you've got to entice people, but it's got to be ready for business. And I totally understand what you're saying. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look very closely on all of North Jonesboro and do a complete analysis of that area and saying, okay, what do we need there? We've got our care, we've got some other things in North Jonesboro. But a lot of things you have to drive all the way across town to get yourself that is not in North Jonesboro. And so that's where I would come in as mayor and go and try to get those companies to move in that area and be the leader and the cheerleader for that to get those things over in North Jonesboro.
Now, Mayor, why do you think that it's taking so long for things to develop there? Are there infrastructure problems that prevent businesses from building there? Are there concerns about crime in that area? What do you think it is that has stymied the growth, and and how can those challenges be overcome regarding North Jonesboro?
Okay. Well, I think the first thing you're going to have to do is some of the blighted areas, we're going to have to clean them up, and you're going to have to get those things ready so that when, perception's reality, when people pull up and they look at something to be able to put a business there, they're going to look at those things. So we'll have to work with our quality of life to make sure that we get the blighted areas cleaned up in North Jonesboro. We also did a great deal in the last 2 or 3 years on the park by adding new things to the park. The Reverend Llewellyn Park, and we also put a $200,000 splash pad. We put a canopy there at Allen Park, and there's just the Parker Park. So there's a lot of things that we could be doing in that area, but it's going to take partnerships to do that, and that's where I want to get people involved like CWL and some other partners to come in, inject money, inject capital in North Jonesboro, and I think you'll see some tremendous difference in that.
Okay, and again, keeping on this theme you mentioned about property and blight, as you know, you tried to pass a property maintenance code. Your vote was a tie-breaking vote when it came through the council. There was a recall election in which the code was repealed, but the underlying issues still remain about the blighted property, as well as complaints from renters that their landlords ignore them when they need their property fixed. So obviously, if you are elected to a third term, this issue will probably come before your desk again at some point. So what will you do different this time than you did last time to address that issue?
Well, that's a good question because, obviously that we had actually 3 committees that worked on that, and then it went to the council for a vote. First of all, after that, I think that possibly that the property maintenance code could have been maybe overreaching to some degree in that. And really, the thrust for me as mayor is what I was trying to do is take care of the folks who rent, that they have a quality place in which to live. Because I would get calls at my office to where that the landlords possibly hadn't been preparing things on a timely basis, things of that nature. So for safety and for quality of life, these folks, 64% of the people in Jonesboro rent. So this property code was for those as well as people that actually own a home. So if you're going to go back to a property code, you're going to have to reach out further and pull people in and sit down and say, let's take a look at what we really need. What are we trying to accomplish in the property code? And so I think that if it comes up again, there's no question in my mind, democracy works. I heard that very clearly in the last one. So we'll pull out. We'll have many meetings in the community, and it won't be just builders or developers or landlords. It's going to be even other people in the community to say, if we have a property code, what do you want in that property code? Because as you know, from time to time, I ride on Friday night on the police department. But some of the calls that I've had when someone did not work on electricity and they literally put extension cord over the ceiling and brought it over from one apartment to the other. The other one was a restroom from an elderly lady that they had not fixed, and she was having to use a porta. And that's just absolutely not good. Okay, I mean seriously. I mean God put us here to take care of our people and stuff, and I'm just telling you, that's just not right. So if it comes up again, the best thing I've learned is to sit down and talk and pull and go out further and get pockets of people in all areas of the town and saying, if you want a property code, what do you want in that property code? And I think that would be good, and I want to hear that voice. That's the big thing.
Okay, with the way the code was set up, were people concerned that if the landlord was to face fines or charges, that the people living on that property would get booted out? Was that the fear? Was that a fear?
Well, I think that that maybe some of the folks read the code a little different than you and I. If I laid a piece of paper here with a document, you may read it a little different than I do. Okay. And so what I heard is, well, this is, you're going to pull up and you're going to tell people, well, your house needs to be painted and you got an elderly couple there and we're going to make you paint that house, and therefore you've got to make a decision whether you want to buy medicine or that or et cetera. So I think there were some misinterpretations of the code.
Okay.
Does that make?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Right. We have a call.
Hey, Miss Farrell.
Good morning.
How you doing, Miss Farrell?
Good morning to the Honorable Harold Perry, our mayor.
Good morning. Norma, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm babysitting. I'm trying to get in my call. I don't mean to be interrupted, but while I have it on my mind, and I just want to, my family and myself, express our thanks to you for being our leader and what you have done for Jonesboro and the level that you have taken our city to. We're proud of you.
Well, thank you very much, and that goes way back to even to your mother, Mary, and which I think of from time to time.
Okay, I have a question what I want to ask you about the jet. Everybody has already, my questions that I needed to be answered have been answered, but on the jet, I'm a citizen that rides the jet buses occasionally, and I talk to people that ride it all the time. We're wanting extended hours, and we're wanting Saturdays and Sundays. I know the ridership has proven that the people ride the buses and they need them. What are your thoughts on that, and how much longer you think it will be before that is in place? And I'm going to hang up, and good luck on your campaign.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the call, Mr. Farrell.
All right. I have visited with Mr. Black, who's our new director of jets, and I am so delighted that when we put the transfer station in, which by the way was a complete grant, no money of ours, $1.8 million to take care of that jets facility and getting the new buses in here. I think there's definitely a need to increase our service on Saturday. I'm not for sure about Sunday, but I know that Saturday people work, and I know they work on Sunday too. So I've asked him to go back and work with me, and let's go down to the highway department and sit down and look, because our most of our money on that program comes from 5307 money, which is federal money, which is funneled down to the highway department. So I'm not for sure we can't maybe increase that service and add Saturday to our routes. I mean, it's amazing that last year we hit a golden goal of over 100,000 riders in 1 year. Now, when that thing first started, we got a lot of criticism. People would say, well, you got a public transit here, buses go around all day long, and there's only one person in there. Well, let me tell you, I've been on the buses, and I know what I'm talking about, is that they are being used. Now, here's the other thing. I went and visited with Tim Woolridge, who is the executive director of Crowlers Ridge Development Council. Now, the way this sets up is that JETS is within the city limits of Jonesboro, but there's people even outside that come in that go to work. So what we're doing is working on an agreement, a memorandum of understanding, if we can get the federal government to go along with us, is that we'll have a certain places all over that when they pull up, they'll immediately change into our buses and we go ahead and take them to work. The other thing that I've heard is that when we pick up people, is that we're not going all the way into the industrial park to take people to work. And so people's got to make a living. So we're going to do a complete analysis, and I'm going to sit down and work with the Citizens Advisory Board that's on that JETS. But I believe we can do some things on that.
Well, that would certainly be a good thing, because example I can give, Quabila recently had an interview on KAIT, and you know, she usually uses the JETS paratransit to get here to the studio, but the JETS doesn't go out there where KAIT is, so we had to kind of struggle to find her a ride out there.
Exactly, and so you know, and here's the thing about it: these two agencies, the city and Crowlers Ridge, we're both getting the same funds, the 5307 money, just like Focus and all these others. Now, if you'll remember, we tried to get everybody together to have a single dispatch, and can you imagine if we could get that done so that you have a single dispatch, irregardless of your need to use the bus, you would be able to have a single dispatch to get the bus to you, even by paratransit. You know, paratransit says, you call, we're going to be there at that certain time, we're going to take you to the doctor, we're going to pick you up at that time and get you back. But if we spread that out further and got that whole thing together, I think that's going to be good. Now, we're already started talking to all the hospitals, the doctor's offices, to see what they would have an interest in doing that. Also, Arkansas State University. When I was in D.C., the lady sitting next to me, Mary, and she was from Clemson. And she said, Mary, you need to fly down to Clemson and see what they done. And I was there before I came to D.C. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, here's what we done. We went to the university. The university entered into a contract with the city. The city handles all the transit, and so they just took that money that was going to the university and funneled it into the city. But the city picks up all their students, and they have it on an app on their phone, so they know exactly when that bus is coming. And we're working on that right now. We just hadn't unveiled that, so we have that to where you can pull it up instead of sitting there for an hour. You know, you can do something else and say, oh, wait a minute. Okay, here's the bus that I want on, and it'll be here in 18 minutes.
Well, actually, Arkansas State has an app.
That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, and
yes.
Then they actually have a bus schedule. It has a link for JET on there, so you get to know where the buses are.
You're exactly right, and I'm real proud of Henry Torres who did that, who's over the IT.
Oh.
And Henry put it on my phone about a month or two ago, and he said, Mayor, you need this. And I said, well, I don't need it as much. I want everybody else to have it.
Okay.
And so we're trying to figure out a word to push that out.
Okay.
I'm glad you thought of that.
Well, I'm going to be starting classes soon, so
I got you.
I download that.
So you want to make sure you know where the bus is,
yes,
right?
Yes, sir.
Good.
We are speaking with Jonesboro Mayor Harold Perrin, and of course, if you have a question for Mayor Perrin, you can call us at 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. We're also live streaming on Facebook. You can also post your questions and your comments for Mayor Perrin as well. And we just looks like we got one in, and this is from one of your opponents, Amanda Donovan. She says, tell him I know the answer, but can you explain what happened with the parking of the cop cars? Coleman, nobody was on duty, but you said on KAITA there was 2 on duty. Was he one of them? And we have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, is that you all know this, and it was in the paper. And I had been saying that the take-home cars was a benefit to the employee. It was an employee benefit, but it's also a benefit to the city of Jonesboro. Now, I've been here long enough to know that I've been through 2 tornadoes and ice storm. If you've got those cars out and allow them to take them home, they can immediately be dispatched if we had something of a major event that happens here in town. And so I think this was tied back to salary plan. So they were trying to say, well, you know, you're including that in my pay. You're saying that's a benefit, so that's why we're not doing this. Well, you just saw, and I'm very pleased, and it's public record that I supported the salary deal. But there's no need to park those cars there because, first of all, they're an emergency vehicle. And then we had to pay a little overtime to get people to come in and move those cars and put them back in the bullpen, we call it, at City Hall. Now, I think the question was, on the AVLs, each one of those cars has a unit. So the very first day when I got there, I said, I need to know who's involved. I need to know what's going on. So when we pulled the AVLs, it showed that two of the people that was working on that shift that night would be swinging by City Hall and taking those folks home when they parked their car. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that that's a deal where they were not doing their job, but yet they were still taking those folks home. Now, it's my understanding, and I was in a meeting where the gentleman that you're talking about did admit that he was the individual that got all the people to park the cars and work with them.
All right, and we're going to go ahead and leave it there as we get ready to go to break. When we come back from break, Mayor Perrin, we're going to kind of transition into the pay issue, which was the cause of the protest. The raises were just passed for all city employees, but there's been some concerns about the budget. We'll talk about that when we come back with Jonesboro Mayor Harold Perrin. This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Wives, do you know how to adore your husband? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. I can tell you firsthand that there are two things husbands really want: respect and adoration. So, if you want to love your husband well, then adore him well. Here are some ways to help you get started. First, adore him as he is. Don't wait until he's nicer or patient or making more money. It's important to lay a foundation and adore him right now for who he is. Second, adore him for what he accomplishes. Be specific in how you adore him, whether it's the way he treats you like a lady, the way he taught your daughter to ride a bike, or the way he fixed the plumbing on his own. Adore your husband, and remember, your family first.
For more resources on today's topic, go to markmerrill.com.
Family Minute is made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
House of Details, located at 4903 East Nettleton Avenue, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, waxing, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more, with a motto of anything mean, we can clean. Details at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and KLEKFM.org.
New St. John Missionary Baptist Church, 308 North Main Street in Jonesboro, is under the direction of Reverend Ted T. Taylor Sr. Worship services are Sundays at 11 o'clock a.m. Sunday school is on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. Prayer service is Wednesday nights at 6:30, and Bible class is on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock p.m. New St. John also has the Men of Standards Ministries, Outreach Ministry, Choir, Youth Ministry, Dance Ministry, and Missionary Society. www.newstjohn.org. New St. John Missionary Baptist Church on Facebook, 870-932-6915.
Lame excuses and other forms of voter apathy have no place in American democracy. Show that you care, do your duty, and go vote. This is a reminder from Cheryl Underwood Radio.
The Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated was established on June 28, 1997 by 13 dynamic women who accepted the challenge and honor of chartering the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter. Today, the chapter continues to impact the Jonesboro community by sponsoring programs such as the Sonia D. Williams Scholarship Breakfast, Back to School Bash, Disaster Preparedness, Delta Academy, Empower African Girls, and Autism Awareness. Our focus correlates with the national theme, uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. Our chapter supports Delta's 5-point programmatic thrusts: economic development, educational development, international awareness and involvement, physical and mental health, and political awareness and involvement. More information about the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated is available at www.jonesboroalumnidst.org or via email jonesboroalumni@live.com.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations. Mayor's Week continues, and we have the current mayor, Mr. Harold Perrin, in the studio with us. And of course, if you have a question for Mayor Perrin, you can call in at 870-277-1080. That's 870-277-1080. We're also streaming live on Facebook and then YouTube. You can post your comments as well. And Kubila just waved her hand, so she's got a question.
Well, not a question. Just want to give one shout out to Mr. Dwayne Hart. He said, "Good morning, Vietnam. I'm loving and enjoying you all."
Was he in Vietnam?
No, from the movie.
Okay.
Robin Williams. Anyway, so he said he's enjoying the talk this morning. Thank you, Mr. Dwayne, for your continued support.
All right. So before we went to break, Mayor Perrin, we were talking about the police protest, which led to, at first, police getting raises, and now just read in the recent Jonesboro Sun that now that all city employees have gotten raises. Well, there has been some concern raised about how that could future impact the budget on down the line, that it may cause cuts or layoffs or any potential things. And I believe, and you can quote me if I'm wrong, that you yourself said that I will do whatever the council tells me to do, but when I come back with a budget, you may not like the results. So just want to kind of get your thoughts on that.
Okay. I'd be happy to do that. Well, first of all, I'm very pleased that the employees got that, and we've been working on this same thing for years. I think someone said that we adopted the salary plan in 2009 and never just forgot about it. That's not true. First of all, this was the fourth amendment to that plan, and then also the police and fire had incentive programs, which was actually getting up to about $1 million a year. So all of that was put in this to be moved over because they wanted a step plan, so they would know that each year what they would be getting at least in their salary. So that's all been done, and I'm real proud of that. The reference that I was making is that there's going to be capital improvements and some other things that we've been spending around $6 to $8 million that we've been pulling out of reserves. And if we're adding this additional deal to the salaries, then we're going to have to prioritize what we want to do in the capital improvement projects.
And for the listeners that may not understand, what do you mean when you say capital improvement projects?
Okay. I'll give an example of that. Number one, there's several things that we ask our engineering department and street department and others to give me a 5-year projection. I did that last year in the budget, and I said, give me a 5-year projection of what we think we need to do in Jonesboro and do it by year. Well, one of those things was at the Joel Mack Campbell Park is that we need another concession stand and restroom facility at the very end of the park because that's where the young kids play, and we added 4 fields there in the last 2 years. The other thing would be on drainage, as well as anything repairs or anything that we have to do within the city of Jonesboro. But I want to make it clear that we're not going to cut in the capital improvements that would hurt any service to the citizens of Jonesboro. These will be just things that we've been looking to do over the years, and we're just going to have to prioritize those and make sure that we do it that will touch the most people, that will make sure that we're looking at public safety within our capital improvements. So again, I'm just simply saying that we're going to have to tighten our belts up a little bit, just like we done when I came in 2009, because we didn't have the money to do anything hardly. So that's fine, but we got through there. Everything, came out great. We're going to do it this way. I got a great group of people, and I'm telling you, we don't buy bolts or nuts unless we need them. And I just can't thank them enough.
Okay. Alrighty. So, did you have another question?
Oh, well, I was going to let you. I mean, okay. I've got plenty of questions, but I want to give you the opportunity to ask yours as well. And of course, the listeners as well, which you can call 870-277-1080 or post on our Facebook live stream.
Since you went into talking about the budget and how you've been working on building the surplus, and at first when you came in there wasn't much of a budget. Now things are better. Okay, there's been a lot of talk about dog parks and aquatic centers, and now the ice rink,
synthetic ice rink.
I'm sorry, and some other quality of life Parks and Rec venues. So how do you feel about the city getting more involved in those projects or should it be more private individual private sectors that take over those expenses.
And to piggyback off of that, if you do feel that this is something that the city should take on, kind of time back into it, how would that work out with the budget, with the increased salaries now on the budget, and I guess finding ways to pay for all of it?
Okay. Good question, and I'll take them individually. Number one, we were very blessed that First Community Bank, when they opened up their doors, actually paid and wrote, they had a big check there, but what they done is they paid for the entire synthetic ice skating, $47,000. So the city didn't have to pay one dime on that. That also provides 100 pair of skates, and we'll have that right in front of Winter Wonderland this year, and we'll block off Monroe to make it safe for our children. So they'll have more than just one thing to go to during Christmas.
So will this be something permanent or just seasonal?
It'll only be seasonal, I think, and it will start off in the wintertime with the Winter Wonderland, like they do in Batesville and some other cities that they've provided this for. We have to provide a little fence to go around there and some other things, but that's number one. The aquatic park, which we've been looking at and saying, okay, do we need one? What does it cost? In fact, I just flew down to Tupelo, Mississippi last week with a group of people with the Jets team to say, okay, this is something that we want. When you talk about an aquatics park or a theme park, now if you do that, then I think that needs to be privatized, and city don't need to get into that. Okay. So what I'm saying is that we just maybe do a land lease or whatever, and that's what's called private-public funding. We lease what we understand where the teams and the high schools, all of those have said they would participate and come in and do their practice and et cetera for that inside pool. All right. And the other thing is we could do state tournaments and district tournaments that we're losing now to Bentonville and Springdale and some of those that we could be having those here. And that would help on the A&P tax and some other things. Okay. So the question on that would be is how do we fund that? Okay. And that's what we'd be looking at. So no decision's been made. It's just right now we're just do our due diligence, taking a look at that and seeing that. Okay.
And transitioning into, since you mentioned A&P, let's briefly talk about the convention centers. As you know, the one off I-555 is currently under the construction. The ASU one has not been built yet. The A&P Commission opted to support the I-555 project, and just want to kind of get your thoughts on that. Okay. And do you still support, both convention centers, and just your thoughts on that in general?
Okay. Well, obviously, as mayor, you have to be, in my opinion, every day, you need to be the cheerleader for the city of Jonesboro. You need to be selling Jonesboro, and you need to try to do everything you possibly can for someone who comes in the city of Jonesboro to help them get here, whether it be industry, retail, or whatever. It's my understanding that next Monday that the construction will start on the convention center, which is on I-555. And they've enlarged the convention center from 40,000 to 80, and now I've heard they may go to 100,000 square feet. But again, as mayor, you have to support both those projects, and that's the reason that when Arkansas State University came back, even to that, in fact, they were asked, would you take the same amount of money that these other people are asking for in the very beginning? And I think the gentleman said, well, I can't answer that because I'm not the owner. And I can understand that. And so then they came back to A&P, and A&P said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to you get started, we're going to go ahead and fund this one, which has got everything in place. We're going to do that. Then you always feel free to come back to A&P and ask for requests. So what this one on I-555 is doing is that they're going to assist them in marketing, number one. The first year, $150. It drops down the second year to $100. The third year, only $50,000. And that's to get the word out to everywhere in the magazines and to get all of these state conventions to come here. In addition to that, both of them were asking for they don't pay any A&P tax up to $200,000 of the tax. So and so that's exactly where we're at on the project. So again, I'm just delighted. I was working on this when I was an alderman. Flew and met with John Q. Hammonds. He even bought the 14 acres over here on Ray Street. The city was going to own that project. It got way out of hand on cost. we'd have had to do a sales tax to pay for it. And in this case, we don't own, we don't operate the convention center at all. It's privately done. The only thing we're doing on incentives is we're saying to them, the first $200,000 of tax you don't have to pay, and we'll give you this for marketing, and it stops at the end of 3 years.
Okay.
All right, so piggybacking off of that, Mayor Perrin, do you see in the third term an increased relationship with Arkansas State University? As you know, they're going to have a new chancellor that is going to come in. So are you looking forward to working with the new chancellor and to find ways for the city and ASU to work together to continue to improve Jonesboro overall? Because ASU is a big part of Jonesboro. And so what will you do in the third term to continue to build on that relationship?
That's a good question, because I totally agree with you that Arkansas State University is a driving engine for economic development for the city of Jonesboro. We know that. I mean, students come here, they spend money. We have over 1,000, I guess, or 1,100 Asian students. We got them all over the world that come here, and obviously we want to work together. We just got through doing a project for ASU, and that was on Red Wolf Boulevard. We took out 700 feet of the median and made a dedicated left turn lane. If you're coming from Paragould, we have a dedicated lane where you get over, let the traffic go through for ball games and performances at the Convocation Center. So we're always doing something with them and helping them. I have met with the chancellor and now that's here. And in fact, I was with him last night. I attended the Business and Professional Women's reception, and where they announced the lady, I think it's Dr. Roberts, who is named the BPW of the year. So there's a lot of things we can work together, and we're even doing that now by reaching out on A&P, where we've got two of the professors that is helping AP come up with rules, regulations, and things of that nature. So we use interns throughout the city, to help ASU. So, we understand, and there is no barrier between the city and Arkansas State University. I want to make that very clear. I attend everything, been on the board, and I've got tremendous relationship with the faculties, the deans, the chairs of those schools, and we're going to continue that relationship. So, but we understand that when the overpass came in, the city gave $1 million so they could match that money to put in the Marionberry overpass. So we are definitely partners, and you cannot separate ASU and the city of Jonesboro.
Alrighty, well, speaking of, bringing in the convention centers, of course, that's going to attract more traffic, more people. So do you have any proposals on how to better the traffic situation? I know we don't have a real traffic problem.
Well, and let's also tie into that, because there are a lot of bicyclists that have concerns like side traffic and sidewalks, bicycle paths. So let's kind of tie all of that into one.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, we're very fortunate because we have Alec Farmer as our highway commissioner, that the city will be receiving $90 million in the next 4 years. And in that STEP program, and I'd be glad to show you that, there's various projects on all these major intersections that you just talked about. One was getting into the off of I-555 onto Stadium, Red Wolf, as well as to Caraway. And so we'll be doing a lot of that. For instance, now when you get off the bypass, you have to go all the way down to get to, I believe, to Caraway or Stadium. Mm-hmm. Well, the plans are to change some of that, where you could have what they call a button loop, where you're coming in, you just go right on around like you did in Little Rock, then you just go right on down into the property.
Okay.
So we're looking at that on that.
Okay.
So the next thing is bike trails, is that I've been working with that for the last 8 years. We've put up signs, and we've done everything we can where on the roads that we can at least stripe it, and if it's large enough, the width there for bicyclists. Okay. Now the big thing is that the MPO under Erica Tate, Erica's putting a master plan together on that, and I'm hoping we can tie Bono to Brooklyn to Jonesboro and have all of these trails together that is safe on bicycling. Okay. And then and we've even just got a kiosk that I think was delivered yesterday by Bill Smith that will be in our lobby that talks about a lot of these things, and it talks about ASU and talks about what we're doing in the bicycle. So we joined that program.
Okay, well, thank you so much for that, man.
You bet.
And since we're talking, my mic on about the shortage in it. That's not good. Well, Kabila asked this question for me. Basically asked about flooding.
Okay, as we know, Jonesboro does have a flooding issue, and it has been the topic of the century. So, okay, along with these new businesses, new things coming in, how do you propose to try to handle some of the flooding that that we've had? Okay. And, looking at the 5-year projections or so, 5 to 10 years. Right. What is your proposal to try to fix, I guess you say, or address the flooding?
Okay. Again, that's a very good question, and I want to go back a little bit.
Okay.
About 4 to 5 years ago, the city of Jonesboro entered into a contract with the Corps of Engineers in Memphis, the Memphis district, and we're doing a study on the entire city.
Okay.
And it's divided into 4 areas. The first area was in the North Jonesboro area that you're talking about, and that came back at a cost of $110 million. All right. Now, also what I done is I pulled in all of the people who are over the drainage districts that because we only have just the one deal there in Jonesboro.
Okay.
So I pulled all those in. I'll tell you why. If we clean our ditches out like we're doing now, and we spent 1.6 this year to do the channelization and if the water can do that, but once it gets on down to the next county or whatever, and it can't go through, it backs up. Okay. And that's what happened to the Nettleton School District. Okay. The flooding occurred an hour after the deal that we had here, which was just it's one of those things you can't stop that when you get 6 inches of rain in an hour. Okay. But we're looking at that, and we're also have a maintenance program on our ditches to where the street department, and we just got through buying 2 more new excavators. Okay. And that's probably going to mean more new employees for the street department to make sure that those things are cleaned out and on a schedule.
And what about some of the rural areas within the outside the city, but within the county? They face a lot of issues. During the last flood that we had, I saw that there were actual roads that parts of the road were actually washed away because of the infrastructure of how it was, the soil under soil or whatever. So what are some ways that you will try to address those issues?
Okay. Well, that's what I'm saying is that the city is going to have to work with the county, and the county has not done much in the area, I don't think, in the area of ditch maintenance. Okay. They've been more on roads. Of course, I can understand that.
Okay.
But we're going to have to work jointly on that, and then try to get more money to do what you're talking about to get all of these out. I can clean up all these. I've got 300 miles of ditches we do in the city of Jonesboro.
Okay.
So when I testified in Memphis at a commission with the Corps, I told the 5 commissioners, if you take the 300 miles of ditches and put them together, it's the size of Collierville, Tennessee.
Oh my.
Now that got their attention.
Okay.
And then I said, okay, now what I need is money. And I need money to help my people get these things done.
What can the residents do to possibly counteract or help the situation?
What can
the residents, say those that have lawn services or, extra tree limbs, clipping, just a variety of things. What are some things the residents can do to possibly help?
Well, the big thing is that, and I've noticed this, is that, really we have an ordinance that when you're mowing your yard, I'm getting down to the real narrow, but when you mow your yard, you're not to throw the grass out on the road, which then turns up in the storm drain.
Okay.
So we make sure and try to keep these storm drains clear at all times.
Okay.
Also, we need to do, I think, a little better job of going around and with a knuckle boom truck and taking the things that you like, limbs and etc. of that nature. We need to pick those things up more frequently than we are.
Okay.
They're set up on a route, and I've told Ed Tanner to take a look at that because it appears that you may not get that route for 4 more weeks rather than that. So if it's people, if it's equipment, then we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
Okay?
All righty.
You bet.
Alrighty, so we've talked about the flooding, we've talked about, the property maintenance code, increasing the quality of life around Jonesboro, and we actually have a phone call. Hello, caller, how are you? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, you have a question?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we're actually about to go to break. Do you mind holding on and calling back in about 3 to 4 minutes? We're about to go to a break. Do you mind calling back?
Okay.
Do you mind calling back about 3 to 4 minutes? Hello? Okay, whoever you are, I'm sorry. I was having a little bit of a hard time hearing you as well.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Having a plan for unexpected income is as important as anticipating unexpected expenses. Just remember, debt first, saving second, and spending last. First, put at least 50% of your windfall toward paying down debt, starting with high-interest credit cards. Second, put at least 10% into your long-term emergency savings fund, to be touched only in case of loss or interruption of income. If your debt is under control, meaning you're making all payments on time and using less than 30% of your available credit, then put as much as 20% toward your savings. If your savings fund is fully invested, meaning you have at least 9 months of your annual income saved, put all of this 20% toward your retirement savings. As for the rest, with it, I'm out here for money.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Sarton Tire is now Lightning Tire and Towing LLC, 403 North Main Street and 4612 East Nettleton in Jonesboro. New name, same service, 30 years and counting. Offering new and used tires available with no credit check needed, 90 days same as cash. Leasing options available. They also offer auto repair, 24-hour towing, car and auto detailing services. Lightning Tire and Towing believes that people serving and giving back to the community is what real business is all about. Phone number 870-932-1412.
Whistle Stop Bistro and Catering, 5435 East Nettleton Avenue at the four-way stop between highways 351 and 463, serving Jonesboro for over 5 years with a motto of, we cater them all, large or small, offers catering and rental space for parties, churches, offices, and fundraisers for holidays and all occasions. They also offer a full breakfast and lunch menu. Open Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. 870-275-6239. Details at klekfm.org.
Experience the joy with Bishop Adrian R. Rogers of Fullness of Joy Church, 3307 Ray Street, Jonesboro, Arkansas, 72401.
Did you know that KLEK 102.5 FM is a non-profit organization? Did you know that you can donate to KLEK 102.5 FM and your donation is tax deductible? Donations to non-profit organizations such as KLEK can reduce the amount of taxes you may owe the IRS or increase the amount of any potential tax refund. Support your KLEK today. You can donate by calling 870-277-1080, visiting our studio at 1411 Franklin Street in Jonesboro, or on our website www.klekfm.org. We at KLEK 102.5 FM are blessed and grateful for your support. Check. Okay. Good.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations, and my mic is back on. I lost my mic there a little earlier. I guess my board didn't like me. But we are speaking with Jonesboro Mayor Harold Perrin, and Mayor's Week continues. We had a caller earlier, so caller, you can now call back, and Mayor Perrin will take your question, and that number is 870-277-1080. Once again, that phone number is 870-277-1080. You can also post your question on our live stream. Kabila, did you have something for the mayor while we wait to see if our caller will call back?
Well, I just want to give the mayor opportunity to either recap things that you talked about, and then just tell the listeners, why you should be elected for another term, and then what are some of your goals that you would like to achieve if you are elected?
Okay. Well, first of all, in the last 8 years, we've done a great deal of things for the city of Jonesboro, and I'm going to say we, it's not I.
Okay.
Because we all have to work together. And I have tremendous partnerships with CWL, ASU, other, it takes all of us to get some of these things done. But some of the things I'm the most proud of is, when people said that we could not raise the money for a Miracle League field for special needs kids and adults, this community pulled together and absolutely raised, and we built over a $3 million facility, which is probably, I call it one of the largest one in the United States, because as we went and looked at those fields, I wanted the field to be larger so we could have 2 events going on at one time.
Okay.
We could have wheelchair basketball at the same time we're having softball.
Okay.
So that's one thing. The other thing is that we continued to build on our infrastructure on like adding 3 new fire stations.
Okay.
And I'm very blessed to tell you that, and you know this, that we're only one of about 4 or so in the state that we have an ISO rating of 1.
Okay.
And that's the best you can get. But we could not have gotten there had it not been for CWL and other partners that we worked with.
Okay.
And also, the thing is that we were able to get grants to add the Jets transfer station and all of those infrastructures, move into our new municipal building, which we immediately changed, and we now can do one-stop shopping for developers, things of that nature.
Okay.
And where they had to go over to the old church and get with the engineering, and had to come back to City Hall on Washington to pay the fee, all that's gone.
Okay.
So we streamlined the customer service for the people. The other thing is that we are looking at now a homeless committee, which we have a task force, and we've also applied for a grant that over a 5-year period will be $3 million to help our homeless and transit people that come through Jonesboro. We've also added deals to our parks and rec. We added a brand new facility at the Southside Ballpark, a new concession stand, and a place for the referees to stay upstairs, because that's the ones that brings you a lot of your tournaments.
Okay.
We also went over to Joe Mack Campbell and built 4 new fields because the demand for that is just getting extremely high. We're growing at 3 to 4% a year. We've got over 3,000 kids right now playing soccer.
Oh, wow.
And also within the City Stars, which says that any child can play in these sports. I'm very proud of that, and we're going to continue to support that. So if you look at the overall of this, we have done a tremendous amount of job of working with what money we had, but more importantly, going out and get more money from other agencies that we put those services back to you.
Okay.
And so that's really what we've done in the last 8 years.
Okay.
And so we've modernized our police department. We got the armory, got it converted, spent about $1.5 million on the building. Our police department has the technology and things that they need to do their job. And so, you take fire, police, and all of that. That's a real good indication that we're going to provide you the best customer service that we can.
Okay.
All right, and Mayor, go ahead.
I was just saying, going forward, there's going to be 3 or 4 areas that I think that we all need to sit down and work on. You cannot ever overlook public safety. And public safety, which is tied directly, it's like hand in glove. If you don't have good public safety, your quality of life will go down. And once it goes down, it's very difficult to pull it back up. So we'll continue to work on public safety. We'll continue to work on the quality of life of providing things to people that you and I want for our children and grandchildren here in town. The other thing we're going to have to work on is to assist and help in working on economic development to get jobs to come here that are paying a higher salary than possibly some of the ones that we have here in town. And I'm not saying that, again, we love the industry we got here. That's not what I'm saying. Most of our economic development in the last probably 2 or 3 years has been more of the retail, restaurant type facilities. And that's great. We want that. but we also need to be recruiting industry to come in and other places that pays the higher salaries.
Yes,
technology, okay? And so we're going to do that. And that's why I work very closely with Mike Preston on AEDC. And I've worked in that area for the last 25 or 30 years. So you've got to know these people and know how they operate so you can work with them on a day-to-day basis if need to be. Also work with the Chamber of Commerce. Mark Young and I have to work very closely together to get all these things done.
Okay.
All right, and Mayor Perrin, if you are elected to a third term, will this be your final term, or would you even consider a fourth term?
Well, based on my age, and if the good Lord blesses me with good health, we'll just take a look and see. I hate to give you a quick answer on that, but people, ask me why you running again, because we've got some projects that I want to see completed that we have started in this second term. The first term basically was getting our feet back on the ground. The second term, 4 years, was doing the infrastructure and things that we were able to do. So this next term is we're going to be working on what we just talked about. So I'm going to have my hands full, but you know what? The key to that is that people's going to help me do that.
All right, and one topic we didn't get into was annexation.
Well, we got 2.5 minutes, so Mayor, quickly, your thoughts on annexation.
Okay, real quick, I can tell you that. Before you annex any property in the city, you need to sit down and do a complete study on that. And what I mean by that is, once you annex an area, you are going to have to start the city providing services for police, fire, sanitation, all of that. So you need to run that on a profit and loss and say, what is that costing us? And then what is the revenue that's coming in to offset that? When we annexed the area going out towards the fairgrounds, there were enough commercial accounts on 49 North that far exceeded what it would take for us to do that. So that was good. If you start annexing raw land or that's not developed in there, you're not going to have any basis in which to get a revenue to come back to offset your services for the people.
Okay.
But again, we have lots of land. We're the second in the state in Arkansas. Little Rock's the only other city larger than us in land mass.
Okay.
So it takes more money, for me to operate than it does for North Little Rock.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So, but all I'm saying is look at it. Let's take a look at it and see. Let's do our due diligence, and then we, might want to annex or not. But right now, we have a lot of areas that has not been developed.
Okay.
All right. And Mayor, in our final minute, just let them know how they can get in touch with you if they want to get a campaign sign or anything, or just let them know why, once again, they feel like you should be reelected.
Well, first of all, if I can, I'd like to invite everyone. The ad's in the paper today, and it's going to be on Facebook. But I've asked John 3:16 to do a major fish fry, which will be out at what we call the Nettleton Baptist Church, which is the fairgrounds out on 49 North this Saturday from 11 to 2. We'll have music, entertainment, and they can pick up signs or etc. I also have a headquarters right next to Barn Hills that they can pick up signs. Also, they can call into the headquarters, or also
20 seconds.
Or also just send us on Facebook. So we'd love to hear from you.
All right. Thank you for stopping by, Mayor Perrin. KLK and the Voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council does not endorse nor support any candidate, nor was any compensation provided for this interview. This was provided for educational purposes only. I'm talking very fast. Have a blessed day. This is KLK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.